I'm going to talk to you about the strategies to ensure your blood sugar is nice and stable when you are eating. Now, you've probably come across these before. They're called glucose hacks or glucose strategies. And I think there is some evidence behind them. So let's start with the first one, which is adding fiber to your meal. So fiber can come in many different forms. It can come in the form of beans, which is one of my preferred options because beans on their own have wonderful health benefits on heart health, brain health, cardiovascular health and heart health, same thing. You get the point. These are fantastic for your microbes, and they also may reduce the types of sugar spikes that you get after consuming as well, because fiber and the inclusion of fiber can delay gastric emptying. So it delays the speed at which the contents of your meal are converted into sugars and then convert into blood sugar, the simple sugars that are coursed around your bloodstream and then get delivered to where they are required, like your muscles, your liver, and for all cells to produce energy. The other types of fibers that you'll find as well that are really, really healthy for you include things like krauts, pickles. These also have those added benefits because you're adding probiotics to your food. So getting fibers in your diet is a fantastic strategy generally. In studies looking at the acute effects of consuming different types of fiber, they've found that the postprandial glucose, so that it is post after prandial eating glucose, the sugar that you find in your bloodstream, was attenuated, so it was nice and muted just by adding some extra soluble fibers. How much? 25 to 30 grams per day. That's all you need, and it's really, really easy to get that amount of fiber in your diet. The added benefits of having fiber in your diet are that they support your microbes that create the short-chain fatty acids as a product of their digestion, and that those digestive products, those metabolites, then also have an influence on your appetite, which can impact your satiety, your regulation of weight. There are loads of extra benefits by just having fiber in your diet beyond glucose control in and of itself. So fiber is your friend. Protein is also your pal as well. Protein comes in many different forms. You've got it in, obviously, canned fish, eggs, and also nuts. Actually, there were studies looking at the inclusion of a handful of nuts before eating, and they found a much more attenuated level of sugar in your bloodstream as well. The simplest explanation for why protein helps with glucose levels is that it's satiating. It is a really easy way to keep the fullness levels up so you don't overeat, which can push your glucose levels high as well. There was actually a study looking at protein inclusion for breakfast, something that we tend not to have, and that actually showed a better regulation of blood sugar levels after eating 30 grams of protein at breakfast. That was looking at young, healthy adults. So there does appear to be some evidence that having protein, particularly early in the day, is something that can help with your glucose levels, keeping you steady, reducing cravings, and improving satiety, so regulating your appetite better. In short, you want to be having protein at every meal time, around 25 to 30 grams. The amount of protein that you require depends on your weight and your desired weight as well. If you're looking to lose weight, you want to use your desired lean mass. So for example, I'm 70 kilos. If I want to ensure that I'm getting decent amounts of protein and I'm fairly active, the minimum amount of protein that I'd be looking for is 1.2, but ideally it's 1.5 grams per kilogram. So I'm looking at getting at least 100 grams of protein every single mealtime, which is around 30 to 35 grams every single mealtime. There's also some evidence that protein interferes with the starch molecules that limits the enzyme's capability of breaking down the starches that you find in a mixed meal as well. Again, muting that level of sugar that ultimately ends up in your bloodstream. And the third strategy is scheduling a sequence. So you've probably heard of a carbohydrate last pattern of eating. So if I've got this delicious spelt muffin, instead of starting my meal with this or some sourdough bread or some crackers, I'm going to leave this into way at the end of the meal. And before that, I'm going to make sure that I've got something that's high protein, some vegetables as well, like maybe some of my ferments, maybe some greens that I've got, maybe from my fridge. Let's grab some greens. Where are the greens in here? I'm going to make sure that I've got some crudité, and these can come in the form of some celery sticks or maybe some carrots. These are the kinds of things that I'm going to be eating before having my muffin. And why is that happening? Why would that help with my sugar levels and therefore have an impact on my cravings and how I feel a couple of hours after eating all this? For the same reasons that we've just discussed. Fiber is going to, again, delay the gastric emptying. It's going to cause a soluble layer that blunts the effect of the sugar molecules from the food that you're consuming going into the bloodstream at a fast rate. It still ends up in the bloodstream, but it's not as quick. It's slow, which means that your body can reasonably adapt at a pace that it suits it. The other thing is that you're mixing in loads of different proteins. That can interfere with the enzymes as well. It's satiating. You're not going to gorge on your muffin massively, and that's what's, again, going to cause that blood sugar response. So doing it in this order is potentially a strategy that can flatline your glucose as well. I'm now going to tell you why fiber being your friend, protein being your pal, and setting a sequence or scheduling a sequence might have no impact on your blood sugar long-term and actually the health outcomes which we ultimately care about. A recent meta-analysis of a number of different studies found that a carbohydrate last eating pattern did not have an impact on HbA1c. HbA1c is a blood marker that we use to determine your ultimate sugar levels over the preceding couple of months. It's something that we use to diagnose type 2 diabetes and prediabetes. And this collection of studies that they put into this meta-analysis found that this sequencing didn't actually have that much of an effect. To caveat my caveat, the studies that they used in that meta-analysis were of varying quality. So I think there's still a lot to be said for this potentially having legs, but right now the evidence isn't great. If I had my choice of the things and the strategies that I feel could ultimately not just flatten your blood glucose, but ultimately stave off metabolic disease like type 2 diabetes and the various issues with uncontrolled oscillating blood sugar levels, I would go for first, fiber being your friend, because there are so many other benefits of getting more fiber into your diet that extend way beyond just blood glucose regulation. Then having enough protein being your pal, because protein is not just, again, about blood sugar regulation. It is about muscular health, skeletal health, your liver, your organs, your hormones, your enzymes. Protein is the most important molecule of life. Only 25% actually goes to your skeletal muscle. So even though I said that first, the most important thing about protein is actually all the other elements that we require, those amino acids, those mini building blocks of protein for. So things like building your enzymes and hormones and the other structural components, things like collagen, your bones, everything is protein. So ensuring that you're getting adequate amounts of protein extends way beyond just making sure that your sugar levels are nice and steady. And if you enjoy this pattern of eating, I would certainly recommend having some nuts and getting some proteins into your meal, but having to be this rigid just to maintain your sugar levels might not be an attractive thing for some people, but it's not that difficult, to be honest. Just having a few vegetables at the start of your meal to ensure that your sugar levels are nice and flat can reduce cravings. It might even improve your appetite, and it's worth a shot. So those are the different strategies that you can do to ensure that your blood sugar levels are nice and steady. But these elements certainly have some long-term impacts as evidenced by studies. Enjoy your food, and I'll see you here next time in the Doctor's Kitchen. We can cut now. If you loved that episode, you will love the full library of podcasts from the Doctor's Kitchen library. We talk about everything from inflammation, supplements, and food as medicine. Just like this episode right here. You can click it right now and check it out.